There are many stories around the world of ape-like creatures living in the farthest mountains and forests from civilization. This time, we present the Yeti, Jago for the Tibetans, or Abominable Snowman, as it is best known across the globe, is part of popular mythology in the Tibet and Nepal region. This is one of the most long-lasting myths about a mysterious monkey-like creature that is said to inhabit the highest mountains in Asia, especially the Himalayas, and it occupies a prominent place in local traditions and stories, since for centuries, countless people have claimed to have seen it, gathering bones, photographed footsteps, and even recollected fecal matter of this being. The first records about this creature date back to pre-Buddhist writings, where the description of a creature with simian features and long white fur. But it was in the 19th century that the legend of the Yeti, named as the Abominable Snowman by an Indian journalist, spread like wildfire among anyone who went up or down the Tibetan mountain range. According to some writings by the first explorers of Nepal in the decade of the 1830s, there were tales of hikers who claimed to have seen, along with their guide, a tall biped creature covered in long hair. These tales that didn't stop going from mouth to mouth among adventurers became, several years later, in a monstrous being that appeared to be real. Over the years, the human interest for this enigmatic Yeti only increased. It didn't matter if there weren't more proof than the tales. The imaginary created around this beast was too powerful, and so began a series of expeditions that had one goal: finding proof of the existence of the legendary Yeti, who, for some strange reason, was also called the Golden Monkey by the people from Nepal and the Tibet. One of the many hikers who delved into the range, Lawrence Waddell, reported what seemed to be footprints on the snow left by this strange creature, that were also confirmed by a photographer by the Royal Geographical Society, who alleged to have seen a creature that looked like the Yeti during one of his climbs in the mid-1920s. In order to provide genuine evidence, he photographed these footprints, which perfectly fit the description of this huge, white-haired animal that roamed the Himalayas. Such was the expectation these images created that during the 50s, a 6-month expedition was organized to look for scientific evidence on the existence of this famous snowman. The expedition was unsuccessful, yet it didn't undermine the legend going around, which to this day still haunts the minds of those who go to the Nepali mountains. In 2008, a Japanese research group led by the scientist Yoshiteru Takashi, head of the Nippon Yeti project, explored the high mountain region of Dhaulagiri 4, getting visual evidence of 18 inches long footprints that allegedly belong to the elusive primate. Takashi states he will go back to Nepal and the Tibet in the future and won't abandon the project until the group obtains strong evidence of the existence of one of the most legendary beings on the planet. The people who believe it exists consider it a distant relative of the orangutan that used to live in this mountain range millions of years ago, and that, from its features, it might be related to the American Bigfoot, the Australian Yowie, or the Kunk from the Andes. However, there isn't any evidence of the existence of this primate. There is research that even relate the Yeti to bears, pointing out that it might be a grizzly bear from the Himalayas, and not a primate, as is often believed, based on the facts that these mammals can stand and walk on 2 legs, and that due to their large size, they could easily be confused with this abominable snowman. To this day, there is no evidence that prove the existence of this peculiar being, but this doesn't mean it's impossible for it to be real. The countless stories of people who claim to have encountered it must be taken into account. They state to have heard a high-pitched whistle, far from what the roar of a bear sounds like. It flees the place where it is spotted with very agile and quick movements done in a standing position, just like a human being. They also claim it has very long arms that reach its knees and a disproportionately large head that ends on a peak. These features suggest that this creature is completely different from a bear, and that it could be a hominid, a missing link that evolved, reached a large size, and adapted to the cold weather of the Himalayas. It is worth noting that in all the sightings only an individual is mentioned. Those who have seen it claim that it goes around on its own, forming a very significant objection to the fact that all species require a population of a certain size in all ages, since it would be difficult to conceal a population of these large creatures for such a long time. The fact is that, to this day, there are still expeditions that aim to find scientific evidence of the presence of the Yeti in this world. Despite we all love this kind of mythological mysteries, science can only refer to them as legends due to the lack of proof on this type of animals and uncategorized beasts. Naturally, this doesn't prevent the sightings, not only of the Yeti, but of any other creatures with similar features and other kinds of cryptids from all over the world. For now, believing or not in these creatures is entirely up to us.